Hi, I'm James Eade of the Eade Foundation. Excuse that technical glitch. I'm working with my producer who's new, and I wanted to introduce you to the Eade Foundation. The Eade Foundation is dedicated to chess literacy and chess excellence, and we are also attempting to build communities through chess. And if you're part of a community, you're never alone. Now, we've got programs started in Uganda, Zambia, South Africa, Nicaragua, and another country. Wait, it's coming to me, Virginia. So, we can always use help. You can go to the Eade Foundation and see our viewers on YouTube or Facebook and get in touch with us. If you want a program started, we can help you. And if you want to help us start other programs, you can help us. So today's the chess files. The answers are out there. And the question today is, what is a chess podcast? I'm not quite certain, so I brought a guest on. Some of you may have heard of this guy, Ben Johnson. Hi.
Hello, Jim. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm well. As I told you via email, I'm a longtime fan of Chess for Dummies as a chess teacher, and I often recommend it to people new to chess. So honored to be here.
What was the name of the book again?
It was Chess for Dummies. I'm guessing it's available from any bookseller.
Thank you very much for the plug, Ben. I've got to start the interview with where were you born? Where do you live now? And how did you get started in chess?
Sure. So I was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I started chess when I was. Are you from Philadelphia?
No. It's just a city of brotherly love.
Yeah, exactly. And I started chess when I was 12 years old. Well, actually, I learned to play when I was 6, but I didn't see the game again basically until I was 12, even though I liked it right away. And then I was going to a school called Masterman, which had quite a successful scholastic program. They have two alumni in particular you may have heard of, Greg something, Shahadi, and Jen something. So I'm kidding, of course.
Jen, yeah, that sticks in my mind. Yeah.
Yeah, no, they're some of my best friends in the world, and we grew up together, playing chess together. So I've been playing off and on, of course, but playing ever since.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of both of them. I just think that's a great way to get started with people like that. They've been promoting chess and doing wonderful things to promote chess. And so are you, though. Where do you live now, though?
So now I live in central New Jersey in a town called Lawrence Township, just outside of Princeton. So I bounced around a bit. I spent a lot of years in New York, but that's where I am now.
Yeah. So do you ever play in the amateur team East?
Well, of course, growing up, it was one of my favorite events of the year.
Yeah, it's a great event.
We've only been back in New Jersey for 2 years, 2 to 3 years. So I haven't made it back there yet. I was actually going to try to rustle a team up for this year. But I'm not going to do the online one. But definitely, now that I'm the closest I've ever been to the amateur team East, I'm definitely planning on making it a staple again.
Yeah. I've only played in it once because I live on the West Coast, but I certainly could recommend anyone that wants to make time to go any of the events, the West, East, North, South. They're all wonderful things. Team competitions are always been part of my favorite tournaments to play in chess.
Yeah, likewise.
Yeah, good. Okay, so the question is, what is a chess podcast? And now I think you'll probably be really happy to be on my show because I have so many viewers. Hi, Mom. And I do think that you might also have some following.
Yeah, I believe my mom and my dad listen. So
good for you. No, but I checked out the number of subscribers that you have. Is that the right way to put it? Subscribers. Yeah. They subscribe to your podcast so they can always know when you're broadcasting or
I get about 8,000 to 9,000 listeners per show as far as I can tell. The way it works with podcasts is like I have a YouTube channel, and probably 5% of the people who watch the show just watch on YouTube because podcast generally means audio only. And my interview, even though sometimes we have the cameras on for engaging with the guest, but it's a recorded interview where there's no visuals. You can't see the person. You can't see a chessboard. So And the reason I got into that is because I'm a big podcast fan. I mean, basically, it's on-demand talk radio, and I'm a big fan of. I grew up listening to NPR, and then got into the medium 10 years ago. Obviously I love chess, but I have a lot of interests outside of chess as well. So I listen to politics podcasts, news podcasts, basketball podcasts, baseball podcasts, comedy podcasts,
Yeah, good for you.
you name it. So a few years ago, or I guess it's been 4 years now, it occurred to me there really weren't any chess podcasts. And that, of course, is the field that I know best. So I decided to start my own, and it's grown from there.
Yeah, that's great because I was the same thing back when we could go to the gym and work out. I would always have listening to a podcast or something like that. It really made the time go while you're otherwise working out is just tiresome and kind of boring and it's for me anyways.
Yeah.
And so listening to a podcast was a wonderful way to spend that kind of time. So I'm as you have been a big podcast fan, and so, the skeptical side of me is that you couldn't possibly get a sufficient subscriber base to make it worthwhile. But 8,000 to 9,000 viewers or subscribers every show.
I mean, it's taken a long time. I've been at it a while, but yeah, that's where we are now. So.
And how about subscribers on your YouTube channel where you can actually see?
Yeah, so there I think it's like 3,000 subscribers. Honestly, I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with YouTube because I mean, I enjoy obviously a lot of the great chess content that's available on YouTube, but I have limited time to watch videos. That's another reason that I started the podcast, and it's a lot of extra work for me to make the YouTube videos. And then I feel like the tone of the discourse can be a bit more negative than I experience elsewhere in terms of the comments and stuff like that. So I'm not going to lie. Sometimes what I do is I convert the audio only interview into like a visual rendering. So it's still just audio, but you see a person's picture and you see like a squiggly line when they're talking. And one thing. And YouTube doesn't allow you to include like embedded hyperlinks, which I find annoying because like I'm always, I want the podcast to be accessible for people with a wide range of chess backgrounds. So if we refer to a particular game or if we refer to a particular article or interview, I want to be able to link to it. And it's like with YouTube, you can't just have the embedded hyperlink. You have to put the link in separately. So it's all these little things basically where I'm not going to lie. I appreciate everyone who takes the time to listen, but I do grumble a little each week when it's time to make the YouTube thing. And that's always the last place that the podcast is available because I have to do that after the product is finished.
Correct. Yeah, that's I can really relate to that. Before we get into the meat of the podcast, I wanted to show you what my artist did, to have a little tag, in YouTube, if you have a tag or what do they call it, a thumbnail kind of thing, So this is what he showed me, and you can see that as well as I can. I hope.
Yes, right? I can.
Okay, so I was wondering like what is this stuff in the chessboard over my right shoulder, and how come we have a little squiggly in our glasses?
Yeah, are we taking vision tests? What's going on there, Jim?
I don't know.
But I like it's creative. I like the rendering, and I loved your intro, by the way.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And this is visually appealing. So I wasn't gonna, but I guess I gotta get back to my artist, and it's that I get what I pay for.
Right, exactly.
Oh, okay. So I can't complain about the artist. The artist, that's going to be a great thumbnail. So I really appreciate the help, and a shout out to Philip Wharton, who does these masterful illustrations. I can't compliment him enough.
Shout out to Philip.
Yeah. But the idea of doing a podcast now, what we normally think of in a chess podcast or a chess video is instruction. That's mostly, I think, what I see out there is people, showing you a game or showing you a position and teaching from that. But that's not what you or I do. I to a lesser extent, but you do something else. Can you tell me a little bit about what it is that you do?
Yeah, so the original vision for the show was more what I would say chess lifestyle. So of course we would reflect on a prominent player's career. They might tell a few of their favorite stories, but also talk a bit about what their life is like away from the board. To me, I especially these top grandmasters. I'm like 2100. I used to be over 2200, but I'm very you know, it's I'm in awe of how strong the best players in the world are. So um,
Yeah,
I
me too.
I was just I really wanted to know more about them, and I felt like that wasn't necessarily. It's actually changed in the last handful of years, but you used to feel like you saw their games and you didn't know anything else about them. So that was kind of the original vision of the podcast, and we still do that. And I'm happy to get to interview some giants of the game like Jan
Right.
Timman and Vishy Anand and many others, Judith Polgar.
Wow.
But I mean, we
Roll
also
call.
but
Yeah.
but we also talk a lot of chess improvement. And as you say, like on YouTube, obviously, the bulk of the content, especially the most popular content, is either just at least appreciating games or like, how do I get better? And there's a great demand for that, even in the audio
Yeah.
only space. So I always get book recommendations. I always try to get a few tips from people about how to improve their own games. We also do this special series called Adult Improvers, where adults, since obviously most of my listeners are adults, who've made significant rating gains, we try to really drill down on what they feel contributed to
What they
that
did.
success. So,
That's cool.
so
That's
it's
really cool.
yeah, and sometimes I even do book recap podcasts. So I kind of switch up the format on a week to week basis, but it's always chess.
It's interesting you say that your audience is mostly adult, but I isn't your background mostly scholastic or teaching kids or
Yeah. So
correct me if I'm wrong.
yeah. So I mean, most chess teachers that aren't grandmasters, if you teach chess for a living, you're going to be teaching kids. So when I lived in New York in my early 20s, I worked for chess in the schools for a couple years and was actually roommates with Mike Klein, aka Funmaster Mike, and
Oh yeah.
Noah Elizabeth Spiegel, and a lot of the sort of best chess teachers in the country, and got a chance
Right.
to learn from them. So I do historically, I've done a lot of scholastic programs. I've worked for programs. I've started to run my own programs, but that is becoming a bit less of an emphasis for me. Just because I'm able to do I'm doing some adult classes and the podcast is growing, so I may come back to that at some point. I like teaching kids, but I'm also I have kids at home, so it's also like a nice break for me to interact with adults.
Yeah. The two people you mentioned that is Mike with Chess for Kids or
Chess
something.
kid,
Is that
yeah.
right? Chess Kids. Yes. Okay. And Elizabeth, wasn't there a movie made about her program in Brooklyn?
Yeah, this movie
Yeah.
called Brooklyn Castle. It's a documentary about IS 318. Highly recommend it. You can rent it for like $4 online. So, uh,
Right.
yeah, it's an inspiring story, even if you don't like chess that much.
Right. And these people are reaching out in ways that when I was growing up, when I was their age, I couldn't fathom, I couldn't imagine it, what they're doing. Maybe if I was clever enough, I could have thought of a podcast back in those days, but like, chess in the movies. And did you happen to see the Queen's Gambit, the
Of
Netflix
course,
series?
yeah.
Yes.
I feel like
Yes.
it's part of my job description. I mean, I would have watched it
Right.
anyway,
Yeah.
but it's been obviously a cultural sort of touchstone. And yeah, I watched it with my wife, which it was nice to. She knows how the pieces move, but not really a chess player. So
Right.
yeah, I enjoyed it, and I get why it's so popular.
And did she enjoy it as well?
She did, yeah.
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 Yeah, that's because your experience is probably like mine, because people know that I chess player, or a former chess player, and they would always ask me what I thought of it, and I hadn't watched it, because it was so popular so fast that I was a little late getting into the game and watching it. But everybody asked me, and they were all so excited. They wanted to know, as a chess player, what I thought of it. So I had to watch it. I just kind of binge watched it, and
Yeah.
I was very impressed. I was really impressed by the scene when she first walks up to the tournament and she's unrated, and the tournament directors are like, "Oh well, you can't play so and so. You can't play in the open section because you'll
Right.
get crushed." and then she goes in and wins it.
Yeah, and that was one of the more realistic scenes because a lot of
it
people,
was.
yeah, to the extent there are knocks on the movie, a lot of people say that the males in particular were too nice to her, which I think is probably true, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, but I always say that I moved around quite a bit when I was getting transferred from one job to another, or when a woman would kick me out of the house or something like that. I'm just kidding, but the idea is that you walk into a chess club and it's not necessarily a welcoming environment, whether you're male or female. But it's doubly so if you're a female, because they don't come up. At least my experience was, in walking into many new chess clubs, was they didn't ask you, hey, what's your name? How are you doing? They asked you what's your rating.
Yeah, that's true.
So they really want to know if you're worth talking to, or if you're somebody that they can't talk to, or it's like it's not incredibly inviting. And I thought that came across in that, because again, this is an earlier point in time. Women were not expected to be great players, and now we expect them to be great players. So our society has moved on. Yeah. Our chess culture has moved on, because it's no longer surprising that Judith Polgar is in the top 10. It was amazing what Susan Polgar did, and they shattered the glass ceilings, and now I don't think women feel like they can't do it. They may not want to do it, but it's not that they can't do it anymore. So I think that series has had not just a popular, stores are reporting that they're sold out of books, chessboards, that kind of stuff, right? So it's wonderful, though. I think
of course.
Yeah. So
and Jim,
and go ahead.
I wanted to ask you a question, because I heard you mention you're a former player, but did I could be misremembering, but did I see your name in the Facebook group for Jakob Aagaard's Academy? Were you taking some of his chess classes?
No, I was not. I try to join groups like that to be supportive. And so no, I'm not. I think of chess as a young person's game.
Yeah.
Frankly, you get to a certain age, and especially if there's health issues around it, competitive chess over the board is too stressful for me now. I don't eat right, I don't sleep right, and then my body complains. And then it takes me a while to recover from a tournament, and it's just not worth the price for me anymore. But I loved playing chess. I love competing. But the best thing, I go to tournaments now mostly to see old friends.
Yeah. Totally understandable. It's
it's like a U.S. Open is like a reunion, high school reunion for me.
Yeah, I'm hoping. It's down the road from me this coming year, so I'm hoping that that COVID will.
Cherry Hill, right?
Yeah.
It's in Cherry Hill, New Jersey this year.
Yeah, and it's always been one of my favorite tournaments, but I rarely can play, given my wife and kids. Yeah, but this year, if it's safe, I'm looking forward to it.
Right, and it's in August every year, and so hopefully by then we'll have some more confidence in our personal safety and going to a tournament like that, and we could hold it.
Yeah,
because it's hard to imagine a world without over the board chess competitions.
Yeah,
I know online chess is booming, but the face-to-face competition was what I grew up with and I'm used to, and it's just not the same for me. And of course, kids growing up today, they don't care. Online chess is just fine for them. But I like the idea where I play a move and I can see the reaction on my opponent's face.
Right.
And that's missing.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that's getting off of your what you're doing on your podcast, because I'm really curious. Like, how did you get Anand? How did you get Judith Polgar to come on your show?
Yeah, well, some secrets can't be revealed. I mean, right. Polgar, I will say, she does her annual Global Chess Festival. So I just sent a cold email through her, through the Global Chess Festival website, and one of her handlers, I guess, brought it to her, and she was willing to do it. Anand, I had to pull some strings in the chess industry, but the chess world is very small, so when you're friends with, like, I'm old friends with Grandmaster Jan Gustafsson. Of course, I'm friends with Greg and Jen Shahadi. I'm friends with Mike Klein. So, and especially now that the show has gained in popularity, and I've had a lot of other strong players. So I'm really only 1 degree of separation from anyone, you know.
Yes.
So some people might say no, but you know, generally you can at least ask someone. But one thing I've been surprised by is, I mean, I love interviewing these, you know, these living legends like we're discussing, but those shows are not necessarily, they're not like hugely more popular than the other interviews I do. And of course they can, to me, they can be slightly more challenging interviews because, I mean, not super challenging, but the person may not be as revealing because they're so used to being interviewed.
And they're so well known too.
Yeah.
You're going over old territory a lot of times.
Yeah, they have like their stock stories. So it's always an honor. I'm not complaining by any means.
Of course not. Yeah.
But I will say it's become less of a, like, when I started the podcast, I wanted to get the most high profile people. And now it's like, if an opportunity presents itself, I'm thrilled, but I'm not actively like going through the top 10 list or something. Like I just like to hear people's stories, and a lot of people who have bigger online followings are actually the most popular guests.
That's really interesting because they're the people want to know more about.
Yeah, and because they have a built-in audience, a built-in channel to tell them, you know, if to tell them about it.
Yeah, because I do think that there is something about, like what you were saying about if you get interviewed a lot, like some of the worst interviews are some of the most popular athletes, you know, because
I think about that a lot now because, and like I said, I'm a big NBA and a big MLB fan, but and so I subscribe to a bunch of podcasts, but whenever it's an athlete, I skip it. Like I like to listen to the pundits, you know, and the analysis, but it's rare. And if there is an interesting interview with an athlete, I feel like it's more likely to be like the 12th man. You know, it's more likely to be the journeyman who really, or journeywoman who really appreciates their place and is kind of like an observer, you know. And I found that to be true in the chess world as well. The player who's maybe 90th in the world instead of first has a heightened appreciation because they're geniuses in their own right. You know, like Patrick Wolf.
Get to that. Yeah.
Like I got to interview Patrick Wolf within the last year, and he talked about what it was like to work on Anand's team during one of the World Championship matches with Kasparov. And Patrick Wolf is just saying, you know, the first time I interviewed the first time I analyzed with Anand, I just realized he's a god. He's from another planet, and that's how I feel about Patrick Wolf. So,
yeah, exactly.
Like, you know, you just add another layer to it. But I do feel like hearing that perspective from someone that you revere is really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. That's fascinating. But but you want to get behind the scenes about it, like what made them a chess player, what made them a successful chess player. Is that the kind of question that you would ask them, or
and like
get
stories like brushes with greatness, the strongest player you ever played, the most impressive post-mortem you ever saw, the drunkest you ever saw a grandmaster. I love to talk about the Olympiad. You know, it's it has a mystique for me because, you know, it's the only really tournament where, I say, out of the top 2,000 players in the world, 90% of them are going to be there. In the same town, in the same complex, and it's men and women. And it's, of course, it's got a rich history and it's important, but it's not the world championship. So they fraternize, the players fraternize a lot. So whenever someone's been to an Olympiad, I'm trying to get stories about that. So stuff like that.
Yeah, I've only been to one, but it's also, I was a huge fan, and, you know, not everybody was when I was growing up. But, you know, guys like Joel Benjamin, Nick DeFermian, Hall of Fame Grandmaster Johnny, these guys, Larry Christensen, you know, they were going, and I was just rooting the heck out. You know, and of course in those days, the Russian team would usually get gold, and if they could get silver, it was like a magical event for the U.S. team. And but those stories are amazing to me. Like, you know, because I just have deep respect for team competitions, because
Yeah.
it's not all just you. Usually in chess, it's one-on-one, it's all you. But in a team competition, you got a team you have to root for, you have to support. So, and that's the pinnacle of the team competition, the
Yeah,
Olympiad.
it's a lot of fun. I was
Right,
bummed that it got canceled. I hope it. I
right.
don't know what they're planning in terms of if they'll do it in an off year or just have to wait.
Right. So
But
what do you do about, like right now, Tata Steel is going on, and is that meat for your podcast grinder, or do you you're not topical in terms of you don't care about what's going on? I'm sorry, not to say that you don't care, but
right.
um, it's not topical and driven.
Yeah,
It's more
it's not the highest priority.
right,
I mean, if there's a big story that emerges from it, like a controversy or something like that, then definitely we would talk about it. And of course, the World Championships and the candidates cycle, those they develop
oh
slowly
yeah,
enough
right,
and they hold lasting interest enough that I do tend to cover those in some detail. But even a tournament like Tata Steel, which I love, and of course I check the positions,
yeah,
many times. It's not going to be a huge priority to cover. And the other thing is, I generally record the interviews about 10 days before I release them. So you couldn't really do
right,
a like mid tournament update. You could do a sort of post mortem. Like
right,
obviously as we speak, Geary and Firouzja are tied, and either one of them winning is going to be a big story if that happens.
right.
So I'm sure it'll come up in conversation, but I leave most of the news coverage to stuff with a quicker turnaround.
And Fabiano is only a half point back, so that
Yeah,
might be a story. Who knows?
yeah,
But I'm the same way. I try to have evergreen broadcasts,
yeah,
that would be appealing, even months from now,
yeah,
um, because there's a lot of news coverage of the actual event while it's going on, and I don't
yeah,
feel like I'm adding anything to that. With my FIDE master experience, it's
right.
like I'm not going to impress anybody with my analysis of the moves. So, but getting the backstories is what interests me, and that's what I'm really just proud of you for what you're doing,
Oh,
because
thank you.
you're getting a lot of those stories out there,
Yeah,
and it's a side of chess that not everyone sees, and I really appreciate your efforts in this regard.
thank you. It's fun for me, so
Yeah,
it's no
well,
chore.
you exactly. That's the way I look at it. If this wasn't fun, I wouldn't do it. So
Yeah,
it's not really work. But
yeah,
there is these frustrations, like how to get the hyperlink in the YouTube,
yeah,
and
yeah,
all these
yeah.
things. Yeah,
That's a chore.
all these things. That's a chore.
Yeah.
So what? My last question to you is, what do you do? What is the best thing for you, social media wise, to get your subscriber base to know you? Is it YouTube, or how do you tell people I'm broadcasting this
Um.
show tomorrow?
So yeah, I mean, Twitter is my favorite social media, so I might be biased a little bit in that direction. But I mean, I have a perpetual chess Facebook group that I mention every week, which luckily a lot of the guests are on Facebook, so sometimes they'll even chime in and interact with the listeners after the interview. I mean, I do always tweet out. Um, uh, Sometimes I tweet out who I'm going to interview. Sometimes I don't, but I always try to promote it on social media and try to engage with people there. But I mean, I think in terms of growing a show, the main thing is just consistency and sticking with it for a while, because every person you interview has their own network, and as they start to share what they did with their little world, the concentric circles grow. So
Yeah,
I really think it's just about just nose to the grindstone. For a long period of time, and it does help to have these social media channels. It would be a disservice not to use them, but I really think if someone's doing a good job and they don't and they stick with it for a long period of time, usually people are eventually going to find it.
yeah, I agree with that. And also, have you ever? I lied. There's one more question I have.
Oh no,
Have
I'm
you
in no
ever?
rush. My kids are
Have you ever?
quiet. Good.
Good. That's your cherishable time, though. So I don't want to take you from that. But do you ever get discouraged?
Uh, not. I mean, I've been lucky. I mean, I, I, when I started the podcast, there was nothing like it, and I had a feeling I wasn't the only one who wanted something like that. And I do think that I I was lucky enough to be right about that. I've been wrong about my fair share of things in life, but that was something that I was lucky about. So financially, it wasn't super rewarding at the beginning, but now like I'm compensated reasonably for my time, even if I'm not getting rich. And to me, that's a win. I mean, it's my favorite. You know, chess is. I do make my living from chess between the podcast and the teaching that I do, but it's always, with the exception of a couple little things like the YouTube renderings, it's my favorite thing to do. And obviously, even something like that, you know, it's not like you're mining coal or something. You know, like
Right.
you have to have some perspective
Exactly.
about what it is that you're doing. So I can't complain.
Me either. And I asked the question only because, getting started can sometimes be discouraging. And you've not only gotten started, but you've become successful. And I just want everyone out there to think, why not? If you want to do it, try it. And don't get discouraged if you're not immediately successful. No one really gets popular overnight. You have to work at it.
Yeah.
You have to get your name out there. And
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when
right.
I started, I told myself I'm gonna do this for 6 months, and I'm not even gonna think about it. Like, there's just no question I'm gonna do this for 6 months. And at the time, it of course it was a financial investment as well. I mean, as I'm sure you're aware, you have to pay for production costs, in addition to equipment and stuff like that. So it wasn't like a huge expense, but it's something to think about. I mean, the other main things I generally advise are just consistency and finding a niche.
Yeah. And my artist, for example, is bleeding me dry. I just don't know how much longer I can afford. But Ben Johnson, thank you so much for being a guest this week. I really appreciate it. Congratulations on all the hard and good work that you're doing.
Oh, thank you, Jim. I appreciate it. Hopefully, if there's a U.S. Open and you make it, hopefully we can have a drink or something, or a meal.
I would love that.
If not, I'm sure we'll cross paths sooner or later after this pandemic.
I hope so. And 2021 I keep saying, has got to be better than 2020. And we will, yes, we'll have our reunions and make new acquaintances.
Excellent.
So, thanks again. I'm going to take you backstage and do my goodbyes to my viewing audience.
Okay.
My mother. Okay. Thanks again, Ben. All right. This has been the Chess Files. The answers are out there. James Eade of the Eade Foundation. And we do this every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern. So if you are curious about what the next show is going to be like, tune in. Same time, same channel. And I would like to thank once again Ben Johnson for being a terrific host for me. And I have got to leave now because you remember the Gong Show? I'm getting gong.